Greetings to shortwave listeners around the world, no matter where you may be. You are tuned to the Australian DX Report, coming to you from Melbourne, Victoria, Australia. This is Bob Padula on behalf of the Electronic DXpress Radio Monitoring Association with another roundup of shortwave station news concerning world broadcasting. And a reminder that all times, days and dates in our programs are in UTC. To commence our program this week, we have our usual information from the Ionospheric Prediction Service in Sydney, New South Wales, here in Australia, concerning solar activity. The IPS reports that the latest available information about the 10 centimetre solar flux shows that this indice has dropped to 99, and the sunspot number, that's the daily sunspot number, is hovering around 70. So those figures are quite low. That means that long distance propagation over multi-hop transmission paths on frequencies above about 15 megahertz over darkness or semi-darkness paths, at least into Eastern Australia, will be unreliable, but frequencies for daylight paths in the same band, that's above about 50 megahertz, will be satisfactory. So some perturbations with solar activity, and we're still moving through sunspot cycle number 24, which is expected to peak in about 12 months' time. Now, some information concerning shortwave broadcasting stations. First of all, Radio Netherlands to end its Dutch service on shortwave. On Friday 11th of May, Radio Netherlands will have a marathon Dutch radio broadcast in which it looks back with pride at 65 years of Dutch radio for expatriates, and which will also serve as the farewell broadcasts. Activities in other languages, especially those for the Dutch, Caribbean, Indonesia, will also be discussed. The activities of the Dutch department will be phased out, but the timetable will depend on the progress of the reorganisation and the available manpower needed to guarantee the quality of programs. No formal decision has yet been made about the date of the final Dutch radio broadcast. However, it is extremely unlikely that Dutch language radio broadcasts will continue through the summer. And that information was acknowledged to Radio Netherlands in the Radio Netherlands Media Network weblog. So it means that Dutch programs from Radio Netherlands will cease in the near future after 65 years. The Voice of Malaysia at Kuala Lumpur appears to have closed down its daytime broadcast. In fact, it seems to have closed down all of its external broadcasts. No sign of any broadcast, at least as monitored here in Melbourne, during our afternoon and early evening periods. Frequencies used previously were 15295 and 9750. It's understood that lower frequencies are still being used for programs from the domestic network at various other times. Vatican Radio, an interesting frequency is 7435. Station's been monitored here in Melbourne from signing on at 1939 with its identification signal, and then beginning at 1940 a religious program, a Latin Mass broadcast with prayers and a liturgy, until signing off at 2000 and after the Latin broadcast. And at 2001 programs continue in Italian until around 2025. Quite good reception here in Melbourne.
Now, some monitoring observations made here in Melbourne recently. Study made of the 41 metre band, 7 megahertz band, in our post-sunrise period shows quite a lot of activity on all continents. This is the summary of some key frequency occupancies I noted recently between 1930 and 2030. 7200, Radio Omdurman in Sudan in Arabic. 7280, The Voice of Vietnam from Hanoi in French at 2030, or until 2030, and it continues in Russian at 2100. 7295, Radio Television Malaysia at Kajang, with the English program relaying a domestic network. 7300, The Voice of Russia from a Moscow site, or a transmitting site very near Moscow in Russian. 7355, Vatican Radio, signing on at 1940 in Scandinavian languages. And 7395, China Radio International from the Kashi transmitting site in German. 7410, All India Radio New Delhi in English to 1945 sign-off. And 7445, Ibra Radio, religious broadcasting station using facilities released from Wolferton in the United Kingdom in African languages, 1930 to 2030. 7450, radio station Macedonius in Greece, carrying the national network or the domestic service programming in Greek. And 7480, The Voice of America from Iranavilla in Sri Lanka with English. And 7520, another IBB station, Radio Fardar from Udon in Thailand in Farsi. And 7530, Radio Liberty, another IBB station from Iranavilla in Sri Lanka, programming in Taitir, Bashkir. 7550, another frequency for All India Radio in English, signing off at 1945. And on 7560, The Voice of America from Kuwait in Dari to Pakistan, 2100 onwards. And 7570, right at the top end of the 41 metre band, The Voice of Korea at Pyongyang in Spanish at 2100 onwards. So other stations heard in that time period include Radio France International from Isidun, signing on at 2000 in French. 7420, The Voice of America from Udon in Thailand in Korean. 7430, Radio Romania International, signing on at 2000 in Spanish. 7505, station known as Radio Free Kozum, broadcasting political programs to Korea in Korean, signing on at 2000 from a transmitting site believed to be located at Dushanbe. The World Radio Television Handbook has published its updating winter schedule dated February 2012, and this is available from the WRTH website, which is wrth.com. It's a free download PDF file, and it runs to about 8 pages. It updates the information actually given in the WRTH 2012 edition. We note some interesting frequency changes as follows. Radio Australia, the Indonesian service between midnight and midnight 30, they're using 9490, replacing 9620, and another program in Indonesian, 2200 to 2330, on 9575, replacing 9630. And both of those frequencies are from the Gabaya transmitting site in the UAE. Now, Ecuador, The Voice of the Andes, English 0800 0900. This is the frequency in the 75 metre band 3995, and also 1900 to 2000, also on the same frequency in the 75 metre band 3995. Now Afghanistan, radio television Afghanistan, new frequencies, or new frequency is 7200. English is scheduled 1530 to 1600 to Southern Asia and the Middle East, and also in Urdu 1600 to 1630, the same areas, same frequency, and that frequency replaces 6102. Now Radio Cairo, frequency change for the English service 1900 to 2030 to West Africa, and the frequency is 15290, replacing the previous 15270. Further changes of frequencies given from the World Radio TV Handbook include the Voice of the Islamic Republic of Iran, programs in Bengali, midnight 30 to 0130 to South Asia, new frequency or new frequencies 5915, and 1630 to 1730 7375, and in Hausa to Africa 1830 to 1930 on 15420, and that replaces 11965. Now Radio Japan NHK World, Russian programming 0430 to 0500 to Europe, new frequency is 6115, replacing 6160 from relay station in Lithuania, and Urdu 1515 to 1600, new frequency is 11600 from Yerevan in Armenia, replacing 9515 from Tashkent, and KBS World Radio from Seoul, French 2000 to 2100 to Middle East and Africa, new frequency is 5915, replacing 5980, and that is from the Issoudun French transmitting site. So there were a few details of schedule changes acknowledged to the World Radio Television Handbook Winter Schedule Updates dated February 2012.
And that's all in our program this time. So this is Bob Padula in Melbourne, Victoria, Australia, wishing you all good listening. Thanks for being with us, good DX, and goodbye for now. See you soon.